if you are listening to this podcast right now and your heart wants to touch other people's lives with what you do, your
Yes.
work, or what you think is a gift or a calling, or even just a business, but you know it'll impact people's lives or an industry or, a company, realize that when you define in language what you do, it literally can come alive if it's been defined in language that has unique language that transfers energy. And you get to be one of those people who help others know there's more, or help others find the more, or unlock the gate.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Audley Stevenson back for another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and I appreciate you for being here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I encourage you to follow us on our social media channels. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the handle The Audacious Pod, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel by tapping the bell down below. There you go. And that way you're connected to all good things audacious related. Now, I truly believe that each of us has a unique gift that has the ability to touch, impact other people's lives in a positive fashion. When you want to make an impact, it comes from inside of you, your brand. And by being your own unique brand, you give you access to your own authenticity, which allows you to be exactly who you are and what makes you unique. And that's what attracts others to you like a magnet. I've got Rich Kozak joining me on this edition of the Audacious Living Podcast, and we'll expand on the conversation of branding a bit further. We'll also dive in the different ways we can have an impact on others in a positive fashion, the significance of authenticity, and Rich will share why even the biggest companies get the branding process all wrong. Hey, listen, if you want to know about Rich, he's a founder of RichBrands and has over 44 years of experience when it comes to defining and launching brands. All of that makes him the perfect guest to have this conversation. So get ready, folks, for an informative chat as Rich Kozak is up next on the Audacious Living Podcast. Hey, Rich, thank you for joining me here on the Audacious Living Podcast. I'm always appreciative of individuals taking time and hanging out like this, so thank you for making the time.
Audley Stevenson, this is going to be a special time. I truly believe, because of the energy I've seen already from you, that the people who are hearing this will be blessed in not only in their business, but maybe in their life. I truly believe that.
That's Rich, really, that's the goal. I oftentimes say if just one person walks away with, one nugget, one insight, one idea that they can use to enhance their lives or change the trajectory of where they're going, I'm thrilled over the moon. So let's see what we can do here today for folks.
Here we go.
You're a branding guy. I mean, you sign over your back, over your shoulder. This is impact driven. You're all about helping individuals establish your brands. But really interesting, you come from a corporate background. You sort of change your focus and practice to working with individuals. I wonder maybe you can sort of talk about sort of that transition and the work that you do with individuals today.
Well, the largest part of my professional career was almost 20 years as an executive vice president of a high-tech, what you might have called at the time an ad agency or integrated marketing communications firm. So we wrote speeches for CEOs, we created websites, we lined up all the marketing communications activities that we felt they needed to do to meet their objectives, to reach their strategy that year. And they had a budget, and and we executed on all of it. And so it was very strategy focused, very marketing process driven.
Right.
what made us different is we were partners in a worldwide group. I had partners in 21 countries. I sat on global brand teams. I was a certified branding consultant, still am, global branding consultant. And we taught the process of branding. Now, hear that. If you're listening, branding is a process. It's not what some, let's call engineering executives or finance executives might think, oh, it's airy fairy, those marketing guys, branding. It is a process. It is steps. And that's what I want you to hear. And you as an individual can do the steps too. So when I turned 50 years old, I was still doing all-nighters, wearing it as a badge of honor on my sleeve. But I looked in the mirror and told myself, I don't think this is really why I'm here. Defining the uniqueness of the next chipset of semiconductors going into the next disk drive, or whatever the project was at the time.
Right.
And I just changed my prayer. Lord, show me what you want me to do. I'm ready. I'm going to change. I'm going to resign this. I was addicted to my job. Clearly, I was like spending so many hours there. I'm going to resign this addictive career to reshape my life. And I started listening, but it took a while. People started individuals, because I'm a consummate networker and I sense you connect with people very easily too.
A little bit.
And I have all these people on my network in different places, sometimes hundreds of miles apart. And one woman said, I need your help. And the next month, another woman in a different network said, I need your help. And then a coach and consultant and author, actually Les Brown, wrote the intro to her book on networking. And she goes, I have the perfect client for you. And I'm like, Lord, branding? I need you to help me create a brand. I don't know how to do that. And I had this vision. And I promised I would create a process. So I just used the process that we had taught with the big companies, but did it on an individual level. And what I realized within a certain amount of time, I was actually, oddly enough, I was singing in the choir. Well, I wasn't singing. I was probably listening to a sermon, but I'm in the choir loft. And this download comes to me that the process of having an individual figuratively or literally close their eyes and picture themselves thriving at the work they really love to do and want to do and know it will touch others' lives, and write down those types of people they clearly see impacting and the impacts they clearly see. And we write down several of them, using that to define in language a brand that they must become to make those impacts, aligns everything their brand says and does after that. And you see, most brands fall flat. Big ones, like multi-billion-dollar brands. My biggest client was $14 billion.
Right.
They were a public company. And my smallest client has been a teenager who came to an event that I created when I thought I was going to be doing in youth training. I was focused on kids in the foster care system, and I was working with Lisa Nichols and her Motivating the Teen Spirit for about 3.5 years. And I thought my focus was going to be on teenagers. And so when that process ensues and you define in language the brand you must become to make those impacts, the impacts happen faster. And so this shift from big boy branding, use the word corporate. I worked for a Fortune 50 company, but that agency was not a Fortune 50 company. It was an agency. It was 40 years old, but it was a privately owned, but it was global because we had partners. And it was, I loved it. It was very compelling. I was addicted to the high pitched whine, but once I said, show me what you want me to do, I'm ready. And I became in show me mode. Things shifted. And there was another moment when I made a decision to restart my faith as a new Christian.
It's amazing.
I'd always been really good with my faith from the neck up.
I love that. I love that.
When I left the agency, I got involved in self-development and personal development programs. Someone invited me and I sort of fell in love with it. And my faith started dropping from my head to my heart. And when I made that decision to restart my faith and read every morning, asking for his will in my life, in my business, and in my to combine what I do in my work with what I do in my life, boy, that's when it really shifted.
Wow.
And so I could easily say, yeah, I resigned my career and decide, and then later I decided to work on individuals. But if you don't tell the rest of the story, we're only here for two reasons, oddly: share love and praise God, and everything else is man-made. And maybe that's my opinion, but I've got documentation
to prove that. Well. So Rich, I appreciate you telling the full story, because you are right. There's value in seeing that, all the pages of the book as opposed to the cover and the back end of it. I also very much love the point that you got to, you get to the point in your life where you're like, I'm not satisfied. There's more. There's more. There's more than what I'm doing. And it's really easy. I caught up and look around. Well, look around me. I've got all these things. I've accumulated. I've all these successes, but still have that drive and desire where this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. There is more. And I commend you on that, because a lot of people don't get to that point, Rich. They don't get to that point, and they stay stuck where they're at. And so that's kudos to you for getting there.
Well, I'm not going to take the credit. Yeah, I realize there's certain things that are above my pay grade.
Sure.
I take credit for those. I'm stealing glory. So
understood.
Yeah, there you go.
Full acknowledgement. Absolutely. And the part you can also take credit for is the people that come in your life to help give you that direction, right? So you get, hey, Rich, can you help with this? Hey, Rich, can you help with that? And all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, like, something's going on here, right? And so I think that's another part of this process where you're being open, and your eyes are fully wide open. You're accepting of what's coming to you, and you're making decisions accordingly. So I think all those things have fallen nicely.
If you are listening to this podcast right now, and your heart wants to touch other people's lives with what you do, your work, or what you think is a gift or a calling, or even it's just a business, but it'll impact people's lives, or an industry, or a company, realize that when you define in language what you do, it literally can come alive if it's been defined in language that has unique language that transfers energy. And you get to be one of those people who help others know there's more, or help others find the more, or unlock the gate. The blessing here for me in my life is that I realize I get to be that person through branding. Really, I mean, branding and stepping into your purpose, branding and praising God, branding, and they often are not used in the same sentence. Branding feels very mundane and very, worldly. And sometimes a lot of people feel, because of the way the world uses the term, they use it to sell stuff. So it feels sometimes disingenuous or tricky, or, kind of like people think about advertising, or they get misperceive it. They think it means a logo, and that's it, no, we have our brand, but it's not. When you want to make an impact, it comes from inside you. Your brand can come from inside you and give you access to your own authenticity and be exactly who you are and what makes you unique. It is remarkable. So if you're listening and that's you, keep listening.
Well, I will tell you, as you're describing, as you're talking about that, it's describing even the process that I sort of went through starting this podcast, where it was we went through a global pandemic, everything around us stopped. I felt like I was missing something. I wanted to do more. I started to look at my own life and say, well, what mattered to me? What was important to me? I started to examine sort of my major accomplishments, my successes, the things that mattered over the course of my lifetime, and everything fell back on the strength of me demonstrating this thing called audaciousness. And I sort of rode that path into really what mattered to me, what was important to me, not knowing, 170 episodes later, whatever that number is, I'd still be doing this and touching people, impacting people the way that I have been. But it was just done out of this is what I think is important. And I've heard you talk about finding your audience, right? When you do that. And I think that's exactly what's happened with me.
The authenticity, and I'll make it, I'll give you authenticity is tremendous, but it's a little scary for people because, well, how do I be but
right.
I'm going to put it this way. Even the biggest brands, I mean, we're talking about big companies, their brands fall flat if they don't paint a clear picture of what they see for you when you bring the brand into your life. Listen to that for you. When you, even if you're an individual and that's your business, it is you. When you paint a clear picture of what you see for them, and let me listen to this. If I'm talking to you right now, you're listening to this, and I say, you know, from everything I know about you, what I see for you is, and I paint a clear picture, it attracts like a magnet. Your antenna pop out. So when a brand or an individual speaks and paints that clear picture, it becomes a powerful magnet. There are two kinds of clarity that are missing. And when you're speaking from your heart, that speaking is authentic. And that picture is really magnetic. So it's clear. Most brands, big and small, fall flat because the clarity is missing. The clarity of what they see for the people they really want to touch, and the clarity of whom they clearly see impacting, because they've not taken the time or done the work to write that down and have it guide, have it drive that vision of impact, drive everything they say and do. Hence, you stand for audaciousness, bless your heart. I stand for impact-driven branding. And my book, Impact-Driven Branding, 7 Steps, no surprise, 7 steps to ensure your brand impacts people's lives in the world, is launching when I launch my brand and speak at the Best You Expo in Los Angeles here on March 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Amazing. The idea of creating that magnetic brand, and that it starts with authenticity, and when you can make that connection, and people are coming to you because of you just opening up your heart and sharing what's on your heart, that's where that makes room for the impact. And so I love the way you eloquently spoke to that. I wonder if we could talk about, Rich, the process. And you talked earlier about the definition, being able to define, which I would imagine is the key starting point. Is that safe to say?
Well, it is. Step 1 and step 2 of the 7 steps is accessible by everybody by closing your eyes. It's so I don't want to get into a training here, but
no.
When you close your eyes, literally or figuratively, just imagine the work you do, the work you want to do, the work you feel, you've done for 30 years and you want to take it to a higher level.
Yes.
The work you just realized you quit your 30-year job and now you really want to do the work, whatever the work that you really want to do. Picture that thriving. Picture you thriving. Doing it. And I mean thriving. Everything you're doing is turning to success. You're touching people's lives and they're moving forward and stepping into purpose, or touching their lives, or shedding their weight, or giving up something that happened in their childhood that's held them back, or learning a new skill, and whatever it is that you do. Picture that thriving. And what are you doing? So picture what you're doing when you're thriving. If you say, you know what, I'm made to speak to people. I'm going to speak to 10 people at a time, not 1 or 100 people or 1,000 or I want to speak. I was made to speak. Or I'm going to write books, or I think I'll have I love coaching people. I love mentoring. I want to work one-on-one, or I want to share this with groups, or I want to teach people so they can teach others. Picture you thriving, and what are you doing?
Right.
That's step 1. That's step 1. Let the power of your imagination ask your heart, who whom do I clearly see? Step two is keep your eyes closed or open or whatever, get another cup of coffee, or a kombucha or whatever, oxygen, whatever you're drinking.
Yeah.
And say, okay, so heart, send me one, heart, whom do you clearly see impacting? Oh yeah, it's that single mom with a special needs child. It's that couple that's about to retire. It's someone who's struggling, that nothing seems to move them forward, and something's holding them back, but they don't know what it is. Who, the person that never ran a business before, and you're going to help make them the CEO of their business, P.S. and their life. You know what? Okay, so it's like, who is that? Yes. Hey, look, I have a client from Africa, and she and I have defined the language for diversity, equity, and inclusion for the next level of corporate executives to look at the world and look at their people differently, because that will shift what happens on the corporate side. It's like, it doesn't matter what your work and gift is. Just that step two is whom, one at a time. Don't think of 20 and don't make a list. That comes from your head. Have it come from your heart. Those things are just as accessible right now. Yes. Right after this podcast is over, you can just get a piece of paper and start letting it come. Yes. And what I'm here to tell you is there is this process that enables you to be the champion of your own brand. And what you'll feel like is you'll feel like you've stepped into the pair of the most comfortable shoes that you'll ever wear, because it's just you. It is remarkable. So oddly, just like you seem to be in your element, when I was at the agency, there was a lot of stress. Sure. I was staying up. It wasn't my agency, but I was driven by the vision of what we could do there. And I loved the work and I was addicted to it. But it was work, and the stress was was tangible. I could feel it. But today it feels like love. I never get that feeling ever. And I spend lots of hours doing this. I have an energy. Don't ask me how old I am. Won't tell you. I have an energy that I feel like I'm in my 30s and I'm just getting started.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And it feels like love.
Well, that just sort of speaks to when you've got a passion and heart for what you're doing, you never get tired. You don't feel like you're working, and you can go on and on and on, and it doesn't wear you down, because as you mentioned, love, absolutely, but the passion just drives you, and it gets you motivated and going. And I think that's such a sweet spot to be in, Rich, because then the level of your productivity is just off the charts, right?
It's amazing. One of my mentors a few years ago used to say, what is it that you do that you love so much you lose track of time? That's God's way of telling you, maybe you're supposed to be doing that. I was like, whoa. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. No, I absolutely. And I love it. I love the fact you talk about your audience, and earlier point that you made, because, there is that audience out there, that person that you're trying to impact or wanting to impact. They are out there. And it's why it's so important that you have that picture in your mind, because you're actually talking to that individual, and that's who will receive your message. And so it's a really, really good point.
Oddly, ask me who mine are. Who are my people?
Who are your people, Rich?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me that. So if you've done something for quite a while, you've done something for 10 years or 20 years or 30, and you're ready to take it to another level, to a higher level, and higher might mean, broader, like more countries, or, more states in the United States, or more industry, or doing different types of customers or people, or maybe it's new media. You've never been on certain media, and you're going to expand your media, and that's going to expand your level of impact. Or higher might be, you want to take your impacts to a higher level. You want to touch people's lives so that they step into their purpose and get closer to why their creator put them here. Maybe that's the higher level. But if you're ready and you want to take it to a higher level, and you feel stuck at the gate to the next level of your brand, That's one. You and I, you should keep listening. Okay. Another one is somebody has something that's new. They've thought of a process because of their journey. They have this process or this idea or a thought or a product, and they know they need to give it life. And their world's told them they need a brand, but they're not sure what that means. Defining it and languaging it, who you are, what it stands for from the very beginning, will race you to abundance, to impacts and abundance faster, and then allow you to step from that platform into your purpose sooner. So that's the second one. And the third is someone's done something for a long, long time and said, okay, I'm over it. I really want to do what I love. That's the third one. But they're like, but I got to get this right. I'm not going to mess around and waste 5 years trying to get it right. So I want to get the branding right. And I don't even know what that means. I'd say those are the three. Now, if what drives them is impact, if you've thought of something up and you go, this will make millions of dollars. And I say to you, okay, hey, that's great. Fast forward, you made the millions. Now what? And you go, what do you mean you made I mean, millions. That's not one.
Right.
Does that help?
Right. No, it totally does.
If the impact is more exciting, is just as exciting as financial success. Yeah. So that's the people I'm made for. And yeah.
It's no, and thanks for sharing that, Rich, because I think when we talk about even things like impact branding, I mean, oftentimes people get sort of confuse that with I've got to make this great website and I got to create this product, but the website and the products, that's not the branding process, right? That comes afterwards, right? And that's why I think sometimes people mix up.
You are a wise man. I will say it this way so it lands with weight, with gravitas. Okay. If you're listening,
yes,
here it is, one sentence. Marketing is powerful when done, driven by an excellent branding strategy. I sat on so marketing at its best, make it personal. Your marketing at its best is driven by an excellent branding strategy.
I love it.
I sat on the American Marketing Association's International Board of Directors for 4 years when I was elected as the vice president of business marketing back in the 80s. Okay, wow, it was a long time ago. So whoops, giveaway. Okay, oops. Anyway,
and how old were you then?
No, sorry, not talking. I'm getting younger. I'm doing everything. Okay, and I love Mark. Every piece of my career,
yes,
is a piece of research and sales and calling on CEOs and brand definition and languaging, and all these pieces are media assessment and watching media change and now just using the same marketing process because the process doesn't change to select media, to select the marketing execution elements that are necessary to make a brand come alive. Marketing at its best is the execution of an excellent branding strategy. Just please lock that in.
Yes.
Branding comes first. When you define and language the brand so it has powerful and unique language that, let's be specific, if it's on the web, it's going to point people to you because it's unique.
Right.
You've created it. You say what you do. You say the expertise in a way that no one else does. And it's intangibly attractive to people. Their head flips on their side when you say what you do and they go, I love that. I want that. Well, what is that? It's an intangible brand promise. Yes. When your language does that,
yes,
it's a blessing. And and that's you. It does. You don't need a guru,
right?
You don't need to learn a whole new glossary of exotic branding language. And boy, we've all heard it, when you get people talking about, well, today you need a micro niche, it's like your essence of your essence. It's like that language is intentionally entrancing to make, and it helps you believe that there's so many things you don't know that you need somebody.
Right.
And you maybe you do need somebody. We all need a business coach. Don't kid around.
Right.
The best athletes in the world have coaches.
Absolutely.
Several of them sometimes.
Yes.
So, and I'll go back to my Lisa Nichols days when I came out of the experience with Lisa and created the Empowered Youth Foundation. and did a 1-day thing called Empowered Youth Day for kids. And one of the chunks was who's at your mentor table. We're all made to be mentored. And even at whatever age you are listening to this, you can learn the script. You know, I love what you do and I want to do what you do. Will you mentor me? That script is good for any age person. Could be for a 14-year-old. It's good for a 41-year-old. It's good for a 62-year-old. Okay. It's good. At the same time, we're made to be mentored, and we're every bit as worthy as anybody else. And if you're listening to this and you'd ever heard that before, just, you heard it here, and just take it and put it in your heart. You're as worthy as anybody else, and you're made to be mentored. And at the same time, we're made to be mentors. It's simultaneously a 14-year-old can mentor a 10-year-old.
Absolutely.
But hear this, a 14-year-old can mentor a 41-year-old.
Absolutely.
And we're all made. So, it's part of love. If we don't get that step one, love each other, right? And love manifests itself in a lot of ways. I'm an organic gardener. I grow food. And when we make a salad, we went and picked it. That's way cool, by the way. Don't get me started. But that's preparing food for others, preparing ideas for others. Doing what you do for others is a way to share your love.
It is. Oh, I love that. I love the love, because it's so, and I love the piece on the mentoring and how we all can be mentors to one another, regardless of your age. Sometimes people are watching you and you don't know that you're inspiring them. That is a form of mentorship. So it's so, and why is all part and parcel so important is if it's our authentic selves. That's what people need to see to give them the inspiration for them to be their own true selves. And so it all sort of fits in together as one together big ball here, and they're not independent of one another. And so I'm glad you also touched on the piece around mentoring, because there's true value in that, Rich. So that's again, a good point.
Well, all of our lives have been touched by a parent or a teacher or a friend, or sometimes a stranger. You're on an airplane flight or a bus, buses are an interesting place, but you sit next to somebody and they say something, you're like, wow. You're at 40,000 feet in a plane, or even on a bus, you can be at 40,000 feet. You finally turn off the outside. Even a stranger, we come into each other's lives for a moment or a season or a lifetime. Remarkable. I don't necessarily believe in consequences, or not excuse me, in coincidences. Oh, what a coincidence. No. It's like things happen for a reason. So sorry, that was kind of weird that I said I don't believe in consequences. I really do believe in consequences. So
coincidences.
Redo the tape on that one, but coincidences. It is early on the West Coast, I'd say.
I hear you. No, but Rich, you're absolutely right. Things do happen for a reason, and we need to, and that's why it's so important to pay attention to things that go on in our world. You were talking earlier about language, and I think a natural sort of thought, at least in my mind, is our messaging when we talk about branding and what we tell people about our brands and what we say, because that all has to be in line. Our messaging has to be in line with the things that we want to be known for. That in itself is a process as well, I would imagine, in terms of getting the right messaging to be in line with yourself.
But brilliant that you would say that. Yes, it is a part of the process. It's at the very end. Picture this. So you've written down those you clearly see impacting and the impacts. You've written down the characteristics the brand must become. Must you be friendly? Must you be listening? Must you be visionary? Must you be projecting? Must you be technologically centric? You've written down these characteristics the brand must become to make those impacts. And you've crafted the way you talk about your expertise. And now it's time to look around at what a competitor said is, well, when people look to get what you're offering, what else do they find, and who might be considered a competitor? And you look at all that and how they position, what the language they use. Then the brand is defined and language and the named and crafted and taglined, and that's the, and then so you craft this positioning statement, and then you name the brand and name it and tagline it, and then you write the message hierarchy. And I'm going to open the door for you. You have to have done the work first, but the first message of your message, let's say you're going to do 7 messages that maybe you can use them all at once, or maybe they build on each other. So there's a hierarchy. The very first message overcomes the number one barrier. You see, there's always a number one barrier that if your brand doesn't overcome it, you lose. And when you define it clearly, you get to think about it. And you said you have to do your message. You get to do it. I'm trained in neurolinguistics programming. You get to prioritize your messages.
I love that.
Whoa. Yeah. So the number one overcomes the barrier. Let's talk about what barriers might be. The perception of the sameness. So let's say you're a coach and the perception is, oh, great, another coach. Why you? Well, if they leave at, oh, great, another coach, you lose.
Right.
So let's get them higher. Let's overcome the barrier of, oh, great, another coach. And you say, I coach addicts, and my expertise is, when I speak at a conference, they say, well, the man speaking at I have a client and so I will use hers. The woman speaking at the Best You conference is an expert at the unlimited possibilities after addiction. Now that's a crafted, intangible brand promise expertise. A person who's been addicted to something and has come through the work and detox and they're ready. And here's that, their family hears that, and they flip their head on the side and they go, well, I unlimited. I got to hear that. What?
Yes.
It's an attractant. And so now if we were talking about barriers, if the barrier is, oh, really just another life coach, and you put a word or two around that life coach that makes them go, oh, it might be her. And now so the first message, hierarchy message, overcomes the barrier. Where would that message land? How about the homepage above the fold? It's like, just look, how about on anything that touches people for the first time and creates a first impression? It's like, it's not difficult. No. It's just a process. And yes, we do get to create our message hierarchy. And so the other messages in that top 7, if you will, number 2 would get you credit for your number 1 category of expertise. So the woman who said my category of expertise is unlimited possibilities after addiction, that message number 2, and I'm not in her zone, I'm not looking at her work, but it might be something like, thank goodness there are unlimited possibilities after addiction. In other words, it's a message. It's said with gravitas. It's spoken with knowingness. And it's the person, brand, who speaks it must, just from the language of the message, must know. Great. Get it? There you go. So the number 3, if there's a second category of expertise, we get credit for that one. Sometimes you need 2, right? A client who was trained by Deepak Chopra as a yogi. She was taught people yoga, but she taught them one-on-one, not cattle call yoga. She wanted to create a major yoga studio that people pay a lot of money and they join and they get one-on-one yoga and Ayurvedic food and treatments that put them on their personal path of wellness and enlightenment. And one of her intangible brand promise expertises was body intelligent yoga. The woman speaking at the You Become You is an expert at body intelligent yoga. Oh my God, I want that. Well, what's in there? It's words that transfer energy, and hook, and not fall flat. You see, one more time, you're listening to this for a reason. There's no coincidence, really. brands fall flat or they don't.
Right.
And yours doesn't have to. When it's defined and languaged,
Yes.
with language that consistent words that transfer energy, you come alive. You don't fall flat.
I love it.
So you can spend another year playing or asking people to do things that bring you leads.
Mm-hmm.
And what you might be doing is creating confusion or misinformation,
Yes.
or not getting credit for what makes you outstanding because you're not using powerful language that does it. And what's that you're worth? I'm just saying.
No.
I don't know you listening to,
Right.
I love you. And I love if you know that it's your time.
Yeah.
Step into the shoes. And I'm so glad you're listening to this podcast right now. Audley Stevenson, you are a catalyst for change, my friend.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. I love the one word that came to mind as you were talking about the messaging was clear. Like when you have that clarity in your messaging, that anyway, so you talk about the transference and creating energy in others. I think it does that when it's clear, it's concise, it's to the point, and people feel like this guy is talking that this brand is talking directly to me and it speaks to my heart. And I think once you've done that, then we talk about the impact. That's where we talk about true impact.
You're listening, write this down. The clarity with which your brand speaks shapes its impact. The clarity with which your brand speaks, not the amount of words, not the intellect. The clarity with which your brand speaks shapes its impact. So what I see for you is, that's that clear picture, clarity.
Yes.
Using the care about language of your target audience, the words in their head. I don't feel I can do this. I think this will take me too long. I'm just not a good person.
Right.
I don't know what's stopping me. Whatever's going on in their head that's repeated, using that language to bait your marketing hooks, because it's them and they'll read it and they'll know you speak their language and they know you're in their head and they know it's you.
Amazing.
Look, these are tips that normally people pay a lot of money for somebody else to do and they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
I'm telling you, it's just a process. And when you do it, you get to say, I never thought of branding like that before. Oddly, every month I do a half-day event called Branding You with Impact.
Yes.
And I believe by the time the Best You comes around next week, there'll be a and by the time this podcast launches, there will be a landing page, Branding You with Impact.
Nice.
And .com, brandingyouwithimpact.com. And if you go there, just get on that half day. It will reshape how you think, what it means to brand you, to be a brand, just what you think about branding and branding you. And it will clear you up. What happens when you define, what does it mean to define in language your brand? What happens when you define in language your brand, and what happens when you don't? And you might find yourself going, wow, this shifted the way I think about the purpose of business.
Wow.
It just get to the half day, Branding You with Impact. All right.
We'll certainly encourage our listeners to do that, Rich, because I think you're absolutely right. And I go back to this podcast. We encourage Audacious, we encourage bulls, we encourage people to take that step, because I truly believe when we can do that, we can have an impact truly on others. So and that's why I knew having you on this podcast, it fits so nicely, because it is that those themes are coincide with each other quite nicely. And if you want to have an impact, you've got to step out and be bold to make that first step. And that's exactly what we're talking about here.
I agree with you. I think you and I are made for each other. Amazing.
We're in sync, definitely, Rich. We certainly are. We certainly are. So it's been, listen, this has been Such a delightful conversation, delightful chat. Like I said off the top, I don't call these interviews. This is not an interview at all. This has just been a wonderful conversation, exchange of some beautiful nuggets of insight, and I hope that our listeners walk away with some good stuff. There's certainly some things that even myself will think about. So I want to thank you for taking the time, Rich. For our listeners that want to connect with you directly, I know you talk about branding you, and we'll make sure that's available. Is there other ways or other things? And I know you've got a book too, so I want to give you a chance to plug your books as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this might surprise you if you're listening to this, wherever you are in the world.
Okay.
And I truly mean that. Wherever you are in the world, if it will help you by getting on a Zoom call with me for half an hour and telling me about you, calendly.com/RichBrands. Get on my calendar. Tell me, let's hop on Zoom. I will hop on a Zoom call with you.
Amazing.
Okay. Just if your jaw is dropped, great. If that's you, get on my calendar.
It's amazing.
And talk to me about you. Yeah.
Amazing. I appreciate that offer. Again, we'll make sure that your calendar link is also accessible in the show notes. So thank you for that incredible offer.
The website is richbrands.org.
Okay.
Just RichBrands, RichBrands.org. Make sure it's .org.
Yep.
There are just two offers right there on the front page. One is get on my calendar, and the other is get the free frequently asked question branding straight talk videos. They're free. Again, the reason we make them free is to get a lot of people ask the same question. One of them is, what makes a good brand? And you're going to hear their four things. Just get them, listen to them, maybe then hop on my, richbrands.org. Okay. Got you.
Rich, this has been awesome. I really, really appreciate this. Thank you for spending the time. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and congratulations on walking and stepping into your purpose, because I do believe that you are having a significant impact on people and being a change maker in this world. So thank you, Rich.
You're very welcome. And so are you. Thank you for choosing to do what you're doing and staying doing it. Wow. 170 episodes. Keep going, Audley. Now if I look you up in 6 months and there's a new tagline on there that says, impacts, I'll know, I'll know it, this all paid off. Thank you. The work you do is phenomenal. I love your heart.
Thank you.
And you're definitely here to be a catalyst in people's lives. Thanks.
Thank you, Rich. All the best.
God bless, brother.
Back we are on the podcast, and I want to extend my thanks and appreciation to Rich for being here and opening up our understanding to the significance of the branding process and how important it is for us to draw a clear picture of ourselves if we want to attract others. If you're looking to expand your brand, I would encourage you to connect with Rich online, and you can visit him at his website, richbrands.org. That's richbrands.org. When I think back to my conversation that Rich and I had, I really appreciated so much of what he had to say. But if there's just one thing that I would take from our chat, it would have to be this. It was Brené Brown who said, "What we know matters, but who we are matters more." As the online space continues to get filled and crowded and more individuals, it's imperative that we present ourselves as authentically as we possibly can so that those who are meant for us will connect beyond the surface level. Those who are meant for us will connect at a real and deep level, increasing the likelihood of sustaining a relationship over a longer period of time. It's for this reason why it's critical that we leverage authenticity in both our words and actions. Being authentic means that you're genuine and you build trust simply by showing up in the world exactly as who you are. Don't be afraid to reveal a little more of yourself. If you're quiet, creative, bold, outspoken, or energetic. Be all of those things. Be who you are. Show potential clients that the things that matter to them matter to you as well. In doing these things, you'll attract the right people you're best able to help, and that's who you'll enjoy. We've come to the end of another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast, and I send my thanks and appreciation as always to our amazing, outstanding listeners, those lovers of audaciousness. I thank you so much for your support. It means so much, and I would encourage you to continue to do your thing, and we'll do ours here on the podcast. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.